The next day, Ziren and Joe were playing badminton. Suddenly, Joe asked Ziren, "Do you have a crush on anyone?" Ziren was confused, asking why Joe was suddenly interested in his love life. Joe simply shrugged, saying, "I don't know, it just popped into my head." Ziren replied that he didn't have anyone in mind yet. Hearing this, Joe smirked, saying, "I heard you're going out with Sher soon." Ziren casually replied, "Yeah, I'm just showing her around. She doesn't know much about this place." Immediately, Joe warned him, "Stay as far away from Sher as possible. She will only bring trouble for you." Ziren laughed, saying, "That's not true. She's actually really nice, sweet, and kind-hearted. I've never met a girl like her before." Joe then raised an eyebrow, teasing, "Are you sure you don't have a crush on her?" Ziren, looking annoyed, said, "You never talk about stuff like this. Are you jealous?" Joe scoffed, "Jealous? Why would I be jealous? I'm just saying, stay away from her. She's dangerous. You can like any girl except her, and I wouldn't care." Ziren rolled his eyes. "You don't need to worry about me. I can handle myself." That night, Joe had a strange dream. He dreamt about Sher's wedding. She was forcing him and Ziren to drink the herbal medicine she made. He woke up in shock and immediately called Chiku, telling him that they had an important task to do tomorrow. Chiku and Joe decided to spy on Sher and Ziren to make sure Sher wouldn't cause any trouble. The next day, Joe and Chiku started following them everywhere. Joe saw Ziren drinking coffee with Sher and immediately got furious. He believed that Sher was deliberately trying to trap his younger brother. Sher's presence was already making things chaotic, and Joe didn't want her to affect Ziren any further. Meanwhile, Joe and Chiku continued spying on them, watching as Ziren and Sher went around the city. They played games, tried different activities, watched a movie together, and everywhere they went, Joe and Chiku secretly followed them. When Sher and Ziren went shopping, Joe and Chiku were there. When they went to a restaurant for dinner, Joe and Chiku followed again. They even went on a Ferris wheel ride, which made Ziren really happy, as it was his first experience. Curious, Sher asked him if his parents had never taken him there before. That's when Ziren revealed that his parents had passed away when he was less than a year old, so he had never visited amusement parks before. Still, he was happy to experience it with Sher. They kept talking for a long time, but soon Sher started making fun of Joe. Hearing this, Joe tried eavesdropping, but he couldn't hear properly. Then, Ziren asked Sher directly. Sher immediately denied it, saying it was impossible. But Joe's expression changed. It seemed like he was starting to like Sher without realizing it. After that, Ziren and Sher moved to another part of the city, and Joe, feeling exhausted, complained, "Do these two never get tired? How long are they going to walk around?" Next, she and Ziren went to an escape room game, where all players had to wear costumes and masks. To keep spying on them, Joe and Chiku also entered the game in disguise. After the game, Sher walked home alone, as she had already memorized all the routes. Once she left, Ziren called out Joe, confronting him. Ziren directly asked, "Why are you following me?" At first, Joe made an excuse, saying he was just worried that Sher might cause trouble. But Ziren smirked, saying, "I saw you spying from the very beginning. I'm not a child anymore. You don't need to worry about me." Then, Ziren dragged Joe to a restaurant for dinner. Meanwhile, Sher was working on a new treatment to help cure Joe's blood phobia. However, the medicine had a horrible smell, which made everyone around her feel nauseous. Still, Sher recorded a video of Joe, saying, "If you refuse to eat this healthy food, Grandpa will find out." With no choice, Joe ate the food, but immediately felt sick and sat next to the trash bin, ready to throw up. Shuri laughed at him, while Joe begged for someone to take her away before she completely ruined his life. Shasha then decided to help Joe get rid of Sher. She took Sher shopping, buying expensive modern dresses for her. At first, Shuri thought Shasha was helping her learn about city fashion, but Shasha had another plan. She was teaching Shuri how to attract men's attention and flirt. However, Shasha quickly realized that she couldn't change Sher's personality. The next day at the office, Shasha apologized to Joe, saying, "I failed. Sher doesn't need to change. She's already perfect the way she is." During the office meeting, Joe announced that he would take Sher to the company retreat. Hearing this, Sher got extremely excited and immediately went back to work with full energy. Later, a new female lead entered the story, Gion, the heiress of the G group of companies, and Joe's childhood sweetheart. She was also a taekwondo champion. Upon arriving at the office, she immediately asked for information about Sher. At that moment, she and Joe were standing together, discussing work. As soon as Gion entered, Shasha was shocked. She hadn't expected her to arrive so suddenly. Gion ignored everyone and walked straight into Joe's office, completely disregarding office rules. When she saw Joe laughing, she was shocked. Meanwhile, Joe was surprised to see her as well, because Gion was known for causing trouble. Noticing Sher standing there, Gion immediately took her aside and started talking to her in a very familiar way. She even invited both Joe and Sher to lunch, so they could get to know each other better. At first, Joe refused, but in the end, all three of them went to a restaurant together. Back at the office, Joe's assistant and the staff started gossiping about Gion. they revealed that Gion had been chasing after Joe since childhood. On top of that, her family was one of the biggest shareholders in the company, making her a powerful figure. Not only that, but there were even rumors that Grandpa wanted Gion to marry Joe. Hearing all of this, everyone started worrying about Sha. Meanwhile, at the restaurant, as always, Joe refused Gion's advances, even though she had already planned their wedding and future children in her mind. Gion confidently dismissed his rejection, saying it didn't matter because he had always rejected her anyway. She then turned to Sher, asking her to order some food. However, when Sher saw the prices on the menu, she panicked. So instead of ordering freely, she chose the cheapest dishes. Noticing this, Joe told her to order whatever she wanted, saying that today's treat was on him. But Sher was worried that he might deduct the cost from her salary, so she refused to order anything. Meanwhile, Gion started questioning her, asking about her job and how she knew Grandpa. Sher explained everything, telling her that Grandpa took great care of her. Then, Gion asked about her martial arts training. Sher shared her story, explaining how she had trained in Kung Fu since childhood. Upon hearing this, Gion revealed that she had been training in Taekwondo since childhood as well. Now that Sher was close to Grandpa, Gion suddenly challenged her to a fight. Even though Sher wasn't interested, Gion still insisted on fighting. Before the fight, Sher warned her, saying that someone could get hurt, so it would be best not to fight seriously. But Gion didn't listen. She attacked with full power. Since Sher wasn't attacking back, she got hit a couple of times, but she still refused to retaliate. She kept telling Gion to stop, but Gion continued her attacks. When Sher finally turned to leave, Gion tried to attack her from behind. At that moment, Joe rushed in to stop her, but Gion lost her balance and fell. Shocked, Sher and Joe quickly ran to her side. Sher apologized repeatedly, but Joe took Gion to the hospital immediately. At the hospital, Gion's leg was bandaged. Even though Sher kept apologizing, Gion's ego was completely crushed. She couldn't believe that a simple countryside girl had defeated her. In her frustration, Gion ordered Sher to leave the room and asked Joe to stay with her until she fully recovered. However, Joe said he had a lot of work to do and needed to return to the office. At this, Gion suddenly put on an emotional act, pretending to be in pain. Joe felt guilty and apologized on Sher's behalf. Hearing this, Gion became even more furious, yelling at Joe for taking Sher's side. She then declared that she hated how close Sher was to him. When Joe tried to leave again, Gion threatened him, saying that if he didn't stay until she fully recovered, she would tell Grandpa everything. With no choice, Joe was forced to stay. Meanwhile, outside the hospital, Gion's secretary approached Sher and threatened her. She warned Sher that if anything happened to Gion, she would not be forgiven. Later, Joe came out of the hospital and told Sher to go home, saying her presence wasn't needed anymore. The next day, when she arrived at the office, everyone immediately surrounded her, asking questions about her fight with Gion. Even Xia rushed in, demanding to know Gion's condition. However, Joe still hadn't come to the office, making everyone suspicious that something big had happened. The office was soon filled with gossips. Since Gion was the second largest shareholder, her injury could cause serious problems for the company. Some even worried that Grandpa might blame Joe and the company. Hearing all of this, Sher felt incredibly guilty. She realized that she might have caused trouble for Grandpa and Joe. Not wanting to cause any more problems, Sher made a painful decision. She decided to resign from the company. Gion's assistants started pushing and shoving Sher, trying to provoke her into a fight. However, Sher didn't react because she was already in a bad mood and didn't want to cause any more trouble. She simply ignored the assistant and started walking away. But the assistant wasn't done yet. Just like Gion, the assistant was also arrogant and aggressive. She threatened Sher, saying that if she didn't quit the job and leave the office, she would personally make her life miserable. She even started physically provoking Sher, trying to make her fight back. Just then, Joe arrived. She angrily scolded the assistant, demanding, "Who gave you permission to come here? And how dare you raise your voice at our vice president?" He then ordered her to apologize to Sher. Even though she didn't want to, the assistant was forced to apologize before quickly leaving the office. Then, Joe turned to Sher, repeating the words she had once told him. "When someone pushes you, you should push back." After that, he returned to his office. It was already late at night, and most of the employees had already left for home. When Joe went to check on Sher, she wasn't at her desk. Instead, he found a resignation letter that she had left behind. In the letter, Sher thanked both him and Grandpa for allowing her to work at the company. She admitted that she wasn't capable enough for this job and that her mistakes could harm the company. She also acknowledged that her presence was causing trouble, so she decided to leave before becoming a bigger burden. At the end of the letter, she reminded Joe to take care of himself, to eat on time, exercise regularly, and get proper rest. She even prescribed some medicine. She had left some medicine for him in the office.